Well, we're joined now by the founder of the Russian chapter of Nigerians in Diaspora Europe, Ojajune. Thank you so much for joining us, and good to have you on Newsnight tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, first off, let's get your reaction to Russian government announcing that it's written off $23 billion debt for African countries. How does that come to you?
Great. I think it's a good idea. Actually, Western countries or the rich powers should follow suit, because actually African countries are not so rich, not very well managed, and before you know, they just accrue a lot of debt. And,
yeah, but we've been here before. Take Nigeria, for example. We had a debt forgiveness, from the Paris Club, 2003, 2004, thereabout. That debt was written off only for us to find ourselves back there. I mean, people have questioned the rationale, behind this debt forgiveness.
Well, I would rather question the rationale for taking debt
in the first place.
Taking loan. Because if we manage our affairs, properly, we shouldn't be taking loans. Not to talk of having debt. That's what I think. President Putin, of course, is such a world leader that understands the predicaments of African nations, and given the present world situation, political situation, he wants to affirm himself and his country, and he wants to make more friends. So I think he did the right thing.
Now, talking about making more friends, we keep getting feelers from across the world. A friend was saying to me from the United Kingdom earlier in the day that she's particularly concerned that, going with your point, that he wants to make more friends, that he may be forgiving Africans debt so that he can create a bloc similar to NATO, and then he will champion it. What about that? Do you see that happening?
No, I don't think so. It's not building a military bloc. No. He is actually, after the liquidation of what he referred to as the fascist, Nazist elements in Ukraine, and securing his country, his territory. He will need friends, of course, not to fight, but to make peace in the world. Russians are not, although they are very capable of fighting. But as far as I know them, they don't go about fighting all the time. No.
Well, many would say that the newfound love affair between Russia and Africa may not entirely be altruistic. Yeah, how mutually beneficial really can it be for African countries? At a time when Russia is trying to, reach out to African countries and all of that, it's creating a lot of, hunger and hurt for African countries. The Black Sea Grain Initiative that he's pulled out of, that's hurting African countries, though he says he's ready to give 6 African countries, free grains.
That's right.
Yes.
He didn't start
but it's hurting African countries.
He didn't start it. In the first instance, the agreement was managed or came through thanks to the mediation of the United Nations and Turkey, right? But as usual, a lot of countries have decided to take Russia for a ride. And that happens most of the time. There was a particular agreement, on exchange or swap of prisoners. Turkey was given the assignment to keep 5 commanders are, captured by Russia. He said they will keep the commanders. Turkey promised to keep them on their territory until the war in Ukraine ends. But just about a week ago, when Zelensky was there, the 5 guys, was given to him to take to Ukraine. Now, that is a betrayal of trust at the international level. But it's not the first time, And apart from that, Russia is saying, okay, if we are giving you all this, why don't you reduce the restrictions, the sanctions from Western countries? They don't budge. They don't really care.
Right. Well, that's Russia.
Yeah, and we said a lot about the Wagner Group in Russia, but we've not said enough about them. Talk to us, if you will, about their involvement in Africa and how they arm jihadists. What could be their motive anyway?
The jihadists came first to Africa. Countries that can't cope with jihadists invited the Wagner Group. That's it.
Yeah, but the Wagner Group seems to be adding or making the crisis, the security challenges within African countries even more complicated.
No,
and
really.
Putin is saying he will still deploy Wagner Group in Africa.
Yeah, so what could be the motive?
Well, to have the jihadists, I think, is a terrible thing. Islamic jihadists, taking over countries. What are we going to do with them? I don't think we need jihadists on the continent.
No, we're not saying we need jihadists. What I'm saying is, hold on a little.
Yes.
Doctor. We're not saying that we need jihadists. Let's put some clarity.
Yeah.
What we're saying is, jihadists came before Wagner.
Yes.
But Wagner is now arming jihadists in African countries. What could be the behind that?
Jihadists? Is Wagner jihadists? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, providing arms to jihadists.
No, I don't have that information. I know that in many countries where jihadists wanted to take power, Wagner has gone there to actually neutralize them.
Yeah, but they have not succeeded in solving the problem they set out.
Yeah, because it's not an easy task.
Right.
But they succeeded in stopping them, at least maybe halfway.
Right. Now, there's been this Russia-Africa summit. That's why we're here to discuss this. What do you think is the, takeaway, the positives for African countries especially? And what exactly should the African countries be demanding in a way that whatever resolutions are reached at the end of the day actually, realized for Africa?
Well, demanding, they can't demand or anything.
Let's change that word. Let's say
they can, because Russia doesn't owe them anything.
There you go.
What?
Okay. Yes, but they can. It's a mutual. It's a kind of mutual, beneficial forum. It should be beneficial to Russia and African nations. What do we need? We need, in most African countries, in Nigeria, for example, we need the basic technology, infrastructure, which Russia is very much in position to give, because, big countries like India, you won't believe it, India, China, they got their initial technological, takeoff from Russia, the former Soviet Union, of course. So we can request for that.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Dr. Ayo Ojajune, founder of the Russian chapter of Nigerians in Diaspora Europe. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight.